It is a beautiful summer evening here in the town of Marne, Michigan, and the heart and soul of American motorsport, short-track stock car racing, is soon to put on what is sure to be yet another exciting series of races here tonight at the Berlin Raceway. One of the feature events tonight will be the Voltson Marne 100, the 100-lap season finale for the inaugural season of the AST Voltson Super Trucks. The 2014 season has seen lots of exciting races thus far, but before we can get to the finale, there are 2 heat races to be run. This is the first race all year in which the number of entries has exceeded the maximum starting cap, and therefore heat races will be held to narrow the 26 trucks that were entered down to the 21 who will take the green flag later in the night. Jack Clark will be starting the race on pole, with Darrell Quick on his outside, one of the championship contenders. Those are the only 2 drivers who will be locked into the race, as they had the fastest time trial qualifying times. The other 24 drivers will have to go through the heats. 12 drivers will start each heat race. The top 9 will advance to the feature, as well as the fastest time trial qualifier who fails to finish in the top 9. Without further ado, we're going to go to the first heat race of the night. We mentioned that one of the points contenders, Darrell Quick, will be starting on the outside of the front row. But the 3 other championship contenders, Zach Churchill, John White, and Gordon Davis, will be starting in 1st, 2nd, and 3rd for this heat in that order. They qualified 3rd, 5th, and 7th, and as this race is made up of drivers whose qualifying rank was an odd number, they made up the first 3 positions on the grid, although Churchill's teammate Brandon Prinzhorn has gotten to the inside of Davis and is trying to move into 3rd. Towards the back on lap 1, Chase Eberhardt's going to get a little bump from Terry Ruiz Jr., and that's enough to send him out of control. He spins up turn 4, and Eddie Vero in the 9 truck has nowhere to go but into the door of the 91. That's the first caution of the race, but they will all continue on. And after the restart, Prinzhorn gets into the back of John White, turns him onto the apron, but fortunately they don't crash. Of course, a higher finishing position in the heat races will translate to a higher starting position in the feature, but Prinzhorn still should not be driving that hard. White is contending for the championship after all. Meanwhile, David Savoldelli has got a mirror full of the purple 333 truck of Ron Anderson. Anderson could be considered a local driver here. He's got some street stocks races under his belt here, but he's going to get in a crash in turn 4 as he swept down the track in front of Chase Eberhardt and spun into the outside wall. Anderson, being a little too ambitious here, gets loose, comes down across the 91 and turns himself into the wall. Anderson trying a bit too hard to stay in the transfer zone. He was barely running inside it, and while he won't have to pit for repairs, this is definitely going to set him back. We're on board Kevin Thompson now, as you can see the 333 sliding around before he gets spun, and Chase Eberhardt gets door checked by Mike Ramos to the inside. Ramos and Savoldelli made contact trying to recover from that initial incident. Churchill is continuing to lead the race. The Winston winner enters tonight just 19 points behind the championship leader. And speaking of the championship leader, here he is, the man that his 3 points rivals are trying to chase down, Gordon Davis in the 32. Here he is currently running in 5th, I believe, right in front of Terry Ruiz Jr. in the 8 truck. Ruiz got into Chase Eberhardt and caused the first caution, although it didn't look intentional. It looked like more of a racing deal. Brandon Prinzhorn's trying to get by John White, but not only is White going to hold off the 7 truck, he's going to close all the way up to Churchill, and as the 84 slides up turn 4, White takes full advantage of the opportunity and goes for the lead. The 2 title contenders are now side by side and trying to take the top spot, which will translate to a 3rd place starting position. Meanwhile, Ruiz Jr. is still not been able to get by Davis. He's actually going to get into the back of the 32 off the turn 2 and nearly wreck him. Now, before you go pointing fingers at Ruiz for this, keep in mind that Gordon Davis has gotten into the back of him several times this season, and honestly I think he should consider himself lucky that he hasn't wrecked Ruiz all throughout the year. Perhaps the 8 truck is simply expressing his displeasure with Davis, although championship night is a very bad time to do so. And speaking of contact, Mike Ramos gets turned to the inside of the front stretch by Eddie Vero. Ramos currently is running in the 9th position. That's the final transfer spot, and despite all that front-end damage on Vero from the lap 2 caution, he is very fast, or at least much faster than Ramos is. He's trying very hard to move into the top 9. You see Eberhard coming out of the pit lane. Ramos moves high to block. Vero goes low, and he gets into the back of the 23, very nearly sending him into the wall. And that may not have been the cleanest pass in the world, but Vero is going to move into the final transfer spot. Chase Eberhard now on the back of the 23, and he wrecks Ramos in turn 3. with just 2 laps to go, Chase Eberhardt has wrecked Mike Ramos from 10th position while running multiple laps down. Ramos probably was not going to catch up to Vero again, but we'll never know for sure now. John White's going to win the race under caution. He will start the race in 3rd. Churchill will start in 5th as he is finished in 2nd. His teammate Brandon Princeorn finishes in 3rd. Connor Cota finishes in 4th. Davis 5th. Ruiz Jr. 6th. Savoldelli 7th. Thompson 8th. And Eddie Vero will be the final truck to transfer by finishing position. As for the 3 drivers who did not finish in the top 9, Ryan Anderson's in 10th, Mike Ramos is 11th, and Chase Eberhardt is in 12th. I don't think that they're going to penalize Eberhardt for wrecking Ramos because the 91 truck won't be starting the main event anyway. In fact, Mike Ramos is the fastest qualifier of these 3 drivers, so we'll have to see if Ramos will be the driver who transfers to the main event, depending on who fails to finish in the top 9 in Heat 2. We now move on to the 2nd heat race where Nancy Keith will be starting on the pole position with Ronald Way on her outside. Keith was the 4th fastest driver in qualifying. This heat is made up of the drivers whose time trial ranking was an even number. The 18 truck has been very fast throughout the second half of the season, but it's been a little bit too little too late for her. She's not in title contention, but she is still going for her first win. Meanwhile, in the back, we have the 83K of Caden Holt. He didn't start very far inside the transfer zone, and he is eager to work his way forward. He makes a little bit of contact with Amberly Weiss. Weiss gets out of shape off of turn 2 and comes down into the 83K. Holt trying to hang on to the car. He comes down across the 37 of Vincenzo Focasato. He gets spun up turn 4, gets hit by Scotty Redden, and spins into the pit wall. That is not going to force Holt to pit for repairs, nor is it going to bring out the caution, but that is going to seriously hurt his efforts to qualify for the race. Just a little too eager to make up positions at the start. He made it 3 wide in the first turn, and when Amberly Weiss slipped up off the corner, there wasn't much she could do to avoid hitting somebody. Holt eventually gets spun into the pit wall, and he actually spun into his own pit box there. A little bit of damage to the left rear of the 83K, but obviously the bigger problem is that he is now very far behind. Alex Martinez has gotten around Ronald Way and has moved up into 2nd. Martinez has also been very fast in the second half of the year. Here is Aubrey Wood in the 13, trying to get by Chris Washer. She's barely inside the top 9 at this point. Wood is one of the few hometown drivers in tonight's race and is also driving for the hometown team, Focus Autosports. She's on the inside of the 96, but hasn't been able to clear him yet. Washer fell out of championship contention recently, but is still trying to win tonight's race, of course, by making the feature. Vincenzo Focasato, Wood's teammate, is going to spin Amberly Weiss off of turn number 2. The 37 was all over the back of the 75 truck, and Weiss gets spun off of the backstretch. Minding her own business, there she goes over the banking and into the tire barriers. 75 truck is not going to make the feature through no fault of her own. She's been a much cleaner and a much faster driver, honestly, than her teammate Scotty Redden, but she's also had some hard luck as well. She's going to go out of the race. Nancy Keith is still leading on the restart, and Martinez is still running in 2nd. Way has managed to hold on to 3rd spot. And on the restart, there's a bit of a stack up at the back. Several trucks are slow to get going, and especially Ron Fergus in the 72F. He's going to hold up Caden Holt and put some more distance between Holt and Scotty Redden in front of him. So this caution kind of gave the 83K a break to perhaps get close to the transfer zone, but Fergus is making sure that he doesn't get back to the lane pad no matter what. Speaking of Scotty Redden, he's now going on the inside of Chris Washer. This is now the battle for the 8th position, so if neither of these drivers lose a spot to Holt or Fergus, they are both in. But they are not determined to let one driver beat the other. They're going to trade that spot several times. Washer goes to the inside in turn 3, but then he slips up, and Redden comes back to the inside. Redden, of course, trying to redeem himself from the suspension that he received for the most recent race of the series at Terre Haute. In front of them, the 2 Focus Autosports trucks are racing with each other, Focasato and Wood, and right in front of them is Michael McKinley and Hunter Blaze. But meanwhile, Nancy Keith is going to run away with this heat and take the victory. The second heat of the night, the second one won by a driver who doesn't have a points win in this series yet. Perhaps White or Keith could get their maiden victory in the feature race. Martinez finishes in 2nd with Way in 3rd, McKinley 4th, Blaze finishes in 5th, Vincenzo Focasato's in 7th, Aubrey Woods in 8th, Scotty Redden beat Chris Washer for 9th, and failing to transfer to the main event, Caden Holt wasn't able to catch up to the 96 and is going to fail to qualify for this race. A very disappointing end of the season for the 83K, who has been almost unarguably the most hard-luck driver of the year. Ron Fergus finishes in 11th, and Amberly Weiss obviously failed to finish. And none of these drivers qualified faster than Mike Ramos. The 23 truck will start the main event after finishing 11th in Heat 1. And for those who are in need of a reminder of the championship scenario, Gordon Davis is the points leader, only 6 points ahead of Darrell Quick, 19 ahead of Zach Churchill, and 61 ahead of John White. Quick has a pretty good chance of being able to beat Davis tonight. Churchill not quite as much, and John White, if he is to win the championship, must win the race, and Davis is going to have to finish very poorly. And now that the field is set, it is finally time for the season finale. The championship battle is about to be decided after these final 100 laps, the feature race of the Voltson Marne 100. Jack Clark and Darrell Quick, coming out of turn 4, will lead the field to the start. We are racing at Berlin. Quick is getting a good run on the outside lane in the first corners, as Clark, despite having the preferred line, is not keeping up with him, at least not in the opening moments of this race. Your two heat winners, John White and Nancy Keith, are right behind them as they continue to battle side by side in the first lap. Quick is going to power by on the outside and surprisingly take the lead from the start. And meanwhile behind him, John White moves to the inside of Clark as Keith goes on the outside, and they're 3 wide for second. White, another championship contender, trying to get to the front as much as possible, but Clark is going to hold on to the second spot as White and Keith continue to battle for third. There's lots of close racing towards the back of the field, and Kevin Thompson's a little too eager to get to the front. He gets into the back of David Savoldelli and nearly turns him around. And whoa, Savoldelli drifting up the track almost gets into the door of Aubrey Wood. Savoldelli and Wood are 3 wide with Vincenzo Focasato. And there's more 3 wide towards the front. Brianna Princehorn in the middle of this battle. She gets a bump from the 68 of Connor Cota, and she almost spins out herself. Fortunately, no one has wrecked, at least not yet. Zach Churchill, another points contender who's working his way forward. He's up to 5th. Well, actually, he started in 5th. But Gordon Davis is coming at him on the inside now. The 32 truck is on his way towards the front, but he doesn't get around Churchill before they take the caution. You saw that the yellow flag was flying. And here's where we're out the first caution. Michael McKinley gets in the back of Ronald Way and does not lay off of him. He spins the 69 truck off of the backstretch. Not sure what McKinley was doing there. That was a rather avoidable accident. And on board the pace truck as the field comes around to line up behind it, Darrell Quick is going to pull onto the apron, and he is entering the pit lane. There's a problem with the 82 truck, and we're not sure what it is, but Darrell Quick, after leading the first 5 laps of this race, is going to experience a major setback. He's going to restart at the end of the field, still on the lead lap, but he is not going to have a chance to lead nearly as many laps as he looked to. This is going to leave John White, his points rival, one of his points rivals, in the lead on the restart, with Clark still in second and Keith in third. But Jack Clark is going to get a run on Nancy Keith and is going to take the third spot back from her on the outside of turn 4. It's kind of surprising to see the outside lane working so well, considering how much the inside was preferred in the heats. Hunter Blaze is going to get spun around by Vincenzo Focasato off of turn 4. He gets hit by Kevin Thompson as he spins down the front stretch, and Darrell Quick is not getting going from bad to worse, gets a small piece of that as well. Thompson, pretty significant contact with the 71 there, and that's going to give him a lot of front end damage. However, he will continue on, and as you can see from this shot after the restart, he doesn't have a hood on that truck anymore. Aubrey Wood here, stuck in the middle of another 3-wide battle as Brianna Princehorn moves to her inside. Princehorn had a great heat race, but has fallen back a bit at the start of the feature, trying to work her way back forward, but she's now stuck behind the 2 damaged trucks of Kevin Thompson and Ronald Way, and they are really bunching up the trucks behind them. Contact between the 13 and the 9. Eddie Barrow got into the back of Wood and turned her into Connor Cota, excuse me. Zach Churchill now finds himself in 4th, but Gordon Davis still appears to be faster than Churchill. He wants that 4th spot for himself, and he's into the back of Churchill, and he wrecks him in turn 4. Gordon Davis just brings out the second caution of the race by wrecking his points rival Zach Churchill out of 4th place, spinning him into the outside wall. On board Alex Martinez to get another look at this. Davis shows absolutely no patience for the 84, never even tries to pass him. He just flat out wrecks the 84, and that is going to have significant championship implications. I'm not sure what the officials are going to do about that, but it should be very interesting to see what becomes of this. On the restart, White is still your leader, but Nancy Keith is trying very hard to get around him. The 18 truck has not lost any speed since her heat victory. Meanwhile, the rest of the field has to once again deal with Ronald Way, the damaged 69 truck. Aubrey Wood gets into the back of him, and she spins off the backstretch. Way comes down into a couple of the trucks, and several trucks go off of the backstretch and into the tire wall. Here's an aerial shot to take a better look at what just happened. Wood, facing pressure from several drivers behind her, gets into the back of the 69, turning him down the track into Terry Ruiz Jr. Ruiz Jr., Vincenzo Focasato, and Way all go into the tire barrier. When Wood comes down across the 57 to Scotty Redden, he spins off of the track as well. Fortunately for him, he's not going to receive any damage. You saw Eddie Vero go off as well. We're on board Zach Churchill. And whoa! Almost hits the 57, and nearly the entire field in front of him just disappears from right in front of his view. We're on board Eddie Vero right now. There's a 13 going around. He looked to be about to save his truck, but runs square into the back of the 13 as she spins up the track, and that's going to be the end of the race for Eddie Vero, and he runs into Aubrey Wood. I'm not sure if he's angry with the 13 or if he honestly can't see out of his crumpled windshield, crumpled hood that is. On board Vincenzo Focasato, as you could see, he was minding his own business when he got hit by the 8 truck, who had just gotten hit by the 69, and Focasato finds himself buried in the tire walls. That's the same place where he ended the first race of his career at this track many years ago. One more look at it from above turn 2. 6 trucks very quickly go from racing hard to plunging over the backstretch, and that is going to take 4 of them out of the race. Ruiz Jr. and Redden are the only 2 to continue on. Jack Clark tries to move to the outside of Gordon Davis on the restart, but Alex Martinez is going to go for the hole that he leaves and try to take the position. Martinez has found a lot of speed towards the second half of the season. He has a best finish of 3rd at Galesburg, trying to better that here tonight. Michael McKinley also trying to get by Jack Clark, but through much more aggressive means, he gets into the 789. Of course, McKinley brought out the first yellow of the race, and now he nearly wrecks Jack Clark, so a little uncharacteristically aggressive driving from the 99M so far tonight. And speaking of aggressive driving, Nancy Keith is nearly bump drafting John White, it seems. She really wants the lead of this race and is not making many attempts to get around him without using the bumper. Although eventually she's finally going to get to his inside and take over the lead of the race from White. The 06 trying to lead as many laps as he possibly can, but Keith wants the turn at the front for herself. And John White is immediately going to move to the inside. He tried to make the crossover on her, but it doesn't work, and he slips up turn 4. I wonder if his tires are burning off or if the handling is going away in the 06, because now he's facing opposition from Gordon Davis in the 32. Again, we're not sure if the officials are going to hand Davis any sort of penalty for wrecking Zach Churchill, but in the meantime, he's still got a race to win. He's trying to get by White and is not having success at doing so yet. The 06 putting up a good defense as Michael McKinley gets by Alex Martinez for 4th. And Connor Coda is running in 6th. Coda was originally intending to run the full schedule. He hasn't showed up to a race in a while, but he's back here at Berlin. Chris Washer running right behind him. It's been a while since Washer had a good run. He, of course, won at Toledo earlier in the season. Keith is now going to encounter lap traffic for the first time tonight. The damaged Kevin Thompson is the first driver to fall victim to her, as he lets the 18 by without giving her much grief. Good sportsmanship from the 90 truck there. Aubrey Wood is running several laps down as well. She got significant repairs done and is back in the race, so I apologize for saying that she dropped out earlier. David Savodelli running right in front of her. One of the couple of races that Savodelli has showed up to that he was not originally planning on racing at. He's not having a very good night himself, running towards the end of the lead lap. Michael McKinley is now going to get by Gordon Davis. The 32 has had so much trouble getting around the 06 that McKinley was able to catch right up to him and take the 3rd spot. But as long as Davis can help it, no one is going to take that position away from him for good, as he moves back to the inside, pulling the crossover on the 99M, trying to get back into the third spot. But McKinley doing a great job, using the outside line again to hold off the 32. John White's right in front of him, and White is currently getting held up by Kevin Thompson. The damaged number 90 truck is going a lap down. However, he's going to get by him without much of a problem. Daryl Quick has still not found his way back to the top 10 since that problem that he suffered earlier in the race while running in the lead. And speaking of the leader, Nancy Keith has just lapped Terry Ruiz Jr. and now has a clean track in front of her. And she's slow in turn 3. She's pulling to the apron and entering the pit lane. Something is definitely wrong with the 18 truck. And we're not sure what it is, but for the second time today, the leader of the race is going to have to pit due to mechanical issues. This will not take her out of the race, but it is definitely going to take her out of contention for the win. And as you can see, the pace truck is pulling out on the track, the caution is out, and it's for John White, the driver who just inherited the lead that Keith lost, getting wrecked in turn 3 by Michael McKinley. McKinley has been trying to pass that 06 truck for quite some time, but he just dumps him down the backstretch, spinning him into the wall. The 5th caution of the race. I don't even know what to say about that. McKinley, that's not the first time he's caused an accident in the same fashion today, and this time he takes out not only the race leader, but one of the championship contenders. It is almost certain at this point that White is not going to be able to win the race, and I think he can consider his title hopes done. I don't know if McKinley's going to receive any sort of penalty for this. I would honestly expect him to. But for the time being, he's still leading the race. Gordon Biggs is now up into second. Aubrey Wood in the 13 is going to get spun by Terry Ruiz Jr. 1 lap after the restart. She takes Chris Washer into the wall as she spins up the track, and then runs into the 96 while trying to drive away. That's going to take Wood out of the race. She was running several laps down and the last car on track. Here's another look at this. The 13 running significantly slower than the 8 due to all of the damage that it has. And Ruiz gets into Wood and spins her up the track. I'm honestly surprised that she didn't take more trucks into the wall than just the 96. But unfortunately for Chris Washer, he was simply in the wrong place at the wrong time. He will continue on, however, while Wood is done for the day. McKinley is still your leader, and Ruiz Jr. now gets into Kevin Thompson. Fortunately, the 90 truck is able to keep it under control. Zach Churchill, trying to work his way back forward, pushes up into Ruiz Jr. They make contact, but fortunately they don't crash. There is a lot of bunching occurring at the back of the field due to the 90 truck once again holding everybody up. Daryl Quick is trying to take advantage of all this and get by several trucks, finally working his way back forward. And running right behind Quick are 2 drivers who have also lost the lead due to circumstances not of their own doing, John White and Nancy Keith. They're all trying to get back positions, although they are running out of time to get back to the lead. And Keith making it 4 wide now as White pushes up, and the 06 is off the track. Blaze and Thompson are off with him. Here's another look at this. Nancy Keith goes for the opening that John White leaves when he spins up the track, but there's no way that 4 trucks are going to be able to race side by side off the corner, and a heavy impact into the tire walls. The 06 truck does a roll on board White right now. This is going to hurt. He gets spun straight off the track, and oh, the camera's been knocked out by the impact, and oh, there it comes back. A heavy crash, driver's door first into the tire wall for John White. On board the rear bumper camera of Daryl Quick. Just straight off the backstretch, White got turned 90 degrees to the right. And once that had happened, there was clearly nothing that White could have done to prevent the crash that ensued. Blaze and Thompson both missed hitting the tire wall head-on. They spun into the growth just past the tire barrier. And this is going to bring out the first red flag that the series has seen. One more look at this from the aerial shot. And, oh! Gives you an idea of just how square on he hit that wall with the left side of his truck. We do hope that John White is okay. The race is going to restart with just 9 laps to go, and McKinley's going to get a good jump over Gordon Davis, who is still running in second. And right behind Davis is Alex Martinez. The Redgate Racing team is once again having a very good run here tonight. Zach Churchill is now facing a challenge from Daryl Quick. The 82 is continuing to work his way forward. It seems that he may have found some of the speed that he lost early on when he had to pit from the lead from lap 5. They are both still very far behind Davis, however. And Mike Ramos now making a move on David Savoldelli. These are two drivers who have kept their trucks clean and stayed out of trouble all night. However, they just have not found themselves at the front. They are both barely outside the top 10. Ramos and Savoldelli just not having the best of nights here tonight. Nancy Keith is the fastest truck on track as the race is approaching the end. Not a surprise considering how fast she was before she lost the lead, but she is quickly running out of time to chase down Michael McKinley. Here he is taking the white flag and beginning the final lap of the season. We're not sure if he's going to receive any penalties for the crashes that he's caused tonight, or if the victory will stand, but he is going to make it back to the line first. Michael McKinley is going to win his third race in a row and close out the season of the AST Voltson Super Trucks. On the cooldown lap, there is a bit of an incident as Connor Coda and Nancy Keith get together. Coda gets turned into the grass and hits the end of the pit wall head-on. A very good run that Coda himself had, but now his truck is destroyed. The officials have made the decision to allow Michael McKinley to be scored with the victory, although there is still a penalty expected to come his way. Gordon Davis finishes the year with another podium finish, a second place to be specific. However, he may be receiving a penalty as well for wrecking his points rival Zach Churchill earlier in the race. Alex Martinez ties his career best finish to finish in third. Jack Clark, the pole sitter, finishes fourth. Connor Coda fifth, Nancy Keith in sixth after being one of the fastest trucks of the race. A quiet but good run for Brianna Prinzhorn, she finishes in seventh. Zach Churchill, her teammate, right behind her in eighth. Daryl Quick, Davis's closest points rival, finishes in ninth. And Mike Ramos rounds out the top 10. And now that the finale is settled, it is time to reveal the winner of the inaugural running of the American Short Trackers Voltson Super Trucks. Your 2014 Drivers' Champion is Daryl Quick, driving for his own team, 2 Quick Motorsports. The number 82 Insure XR wins the championship. Quick won a single race this season at the Michigan International Speedway, has a pole position at the Winston Speedway, finished 4 of the 9 races in the top 5, and 7 of them in the top 10, with an average finish of 6.56. That's the best of any driver this season. Gordon Davis entered this race with more points than Quick did, and finished ahead of Quick in the race, but a 25-point penalty that Davis received for wrecking the 84 truck in the final race of the season is going to give Quick just enough points to beat Davis. The heartbreak on the 32 team, I'm sure, is undescribable at the moment, but Quick is your 2014 Series Champion. Congratulations to everyone at 2 Quick Motorsports. Zach Churchill comes very close to winning the title himself. He's only 11 points behind Quick in the final standings. John White barely beats Nancy Keith for 4th. Keith had a fantastic late season charge, but unfortunately for her, it was too little too late. Chris Washer finishes the year in 6th, Hunter Blaze in 7th, Brianna Prinzhorn in 8th, Kevin Thompson in 9th, and rounding out the top 10 in the championship is Mike Ramos. It should be noted that Michael McKinley, despite missing 2 races, finished in 11th. As for the 2 full-time drivers who did not finish in the top 10, Caden Holt ends the year in 14th after failing to qualify for tonight's event, and Ron Fergus finishes all the way back in 22nd. And that concludes our coverage of the 2014 running of the American Short Trackers Voltson Super Trucks. From everyone here at Enrichment TV 2, I hope you've enjoyed our coverage, and I hope to see you again next year. So long, everyone.